Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to Heel Shit. On today's episode, pro wrestling news, rumors, spoilers, discussions, and predictions. And your hosts, Dark Cordz and Draven Rhymes.
Welcome back to Heel Shit. Why do we call it that? Because bad guys do heel shit. What are we talking about tonight, Draven?
Oh, tonight, honestly, I've been waiting on this one since we did the top 10 episode, right? So tonight, since we did a little too much on the top 10, we're going to do the top five professional wrestling matches in our opinion. Now, I kind of sneaked one by you on the top 10 episode, and to be fair, they were your rules, but we have a couple of rules here. Each match will be its own entry. No trilogies, no set of matches, nothing like that. It has to be individual matches, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it can be from any company at any time point, any superstar except Brian Cage. So, is there any other rules that we need to follow?
Nope. We can get into it, but first, if you guys could do us a huge favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment down below, follow the podcast. We're on all the podcast networks. And check out our website, heelshitpodcast.com. All social media, Heel Shit Podcast. We make this shit real simple. Get the merch. Bad guys do heel shit.
Just got the hat in.
Heel Shit Podcast. All you gotta do is go to heelshitshop.com, or you can or you can go to our website, and there's a link to the shop right there. heelshitpodcast.com and heelshitshop.com. Draven, what's your number 5 match of all time?
Oh, I gotta start off. I gotta curtain jerk this one. All right, I got you. My number 5. Now, before we get into it, I want you to know this was a very hard top 5 to pick.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard enough for us to get 10 of them to narrow it down to that. So we're going to have a couple honorable mentions before number 1, obviously. We even had to tone down our honorable mentions. But for my number 5, and this is kind of a mark-out thing, it's got to be FTR and the Briscoes in the dog collar match at Final Battle.
I was wondering if that was going to make its way onto your list.
It did, and this was one of those that, even though I wanted it higher on my list, all the matches on here, besides this one, in some way, shape, or form, either helped me professionally or helped me personally through life. Okay? Excuse me. But this match, I mean, let's be real. It's the last time Jay performed. And because of that, it's a very emotional match. But in my opinion, of the trilogy, because you bastard, you wouldn't let me put all 3 in one spot, this was the best one.
Mm-hmm.
This one showcased exactly how brutal FTR could be. It proved that they're not just a technical tag team. They're a brawling tag team. They're a fighting tag team. And in my opinion, in Ring of Honor, I'm just going to keep it Ring of Honor for right now, there's no greater tag team than the Briscoes. There never will be.
Mm-hmm.
So, besides the fact it was, unfortunately, Jay's last performance, in my opinion, top 5 Jay Briscoe matches with him being involved in it. But more or less, this match I put on here for FTR because they proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that as of that match, win, lose, or draw, they were the greatest tag team in the world. Yes, they did lose the Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions to the Briscoes for the 13th time. But it's like we've always been taught. It's not about going over. It's about getting over. Mm-hmm. And both teams got over with the crowd that night. And it is still being taught to you Like it just happened.
Where's the mic on you right now?
Mic on me is on my cut. What's up?
Okay, no. Right now you sound fine, but a couple times while you're talking there, it just keeps muffling for some reason.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to get me a new mic. I'll look into that. But yeah, so for those reasons, Briscoe's FTR dog collar, very emotional, very bloody, and well deserving of my number 5 spot.
Yeah, I don't have any matches that are near that recent on my top 5. I don't have any tag team matches on my top 5. But if we're talking about in the last 5 years, it's definitely, to me, without question, the best match in 2022, and probably
Absolutely.
of the last 5 years. Like, just an
Well,
amazing.
correct me if I'm wrong. Even though it's from Uncle Dave, didn't Dave name that one match of the year as well? Yeah, because he had the both members of FTR and Mark Briscoe with the flags. Yeah,
It might be my favorite tag team match of all time. I mean, I could definitely.
tag team wrestling is such an art. But like I said, this was more or less a mark out pick for me. So it was just one of those deals for me. But either way, well deserved for my number 5 spot. Time travel.
No, that's a good pick. Like I said, most of mine are a little bit further back, but I can't argue with that pick.
Well, to be fair, this is the most recent match, and this is the only tag team match on my list. So everything else from here actually are one-on-one matches. So
Okay.
it can be interesting.
All right. So for me, number 5, Bret Hart versus HBK 60-man Iron Man match.
Nice.
So
Very nice.
I think it is obviously the boyhood dream match. It's the culmination of all of HBK's rise to finally being the champion. It went 60 minutes. No decision. Finally went to sudden death. Sean won the match. They were able to make a no-fall 60-minute match exciting the whole way through.
Yep, sure did. That match to this day.
I don't think I would say this is probably the best Iron Man match in the history of Iron Man matches. But I think because of the story that went along with it, HBK finally becoming champion, the fact that there was 2 masters of their craft, and there was no lulls in a 60-minute contest with no pinfalls. That's my number 5 pick.
That's actually a great number 5 pick. And to be fair, that was one of the matches that was bouncing for my number 5 pick as well. So it's down on my honorable mentions that we'll talk about later. Yeah, I can't disagree with that at all. I mean, they made history at WrestleMania 12. You show today's day and age, you show me 2 workers that can do a 60-minute draw and keep the attention. Maybe Danielson and MJF, maybe they could have. But with MJF's character, you needed the sneaky pinfalls and stuff that we saw at Revolution.
Right.
And this goes back to what we said whenever we did our top 10. You're either a Brett guy or you're a Sean guy. And I'm a Sean guy. I've always been a Sean guy. And one thing I wished I was able to watch that live. I know how emotional I get when I watch certain matches. That's one of those matches I do. I can only imagine how I would have felt watching that live. You know what I mean? So yeah, definitely awesome. Great pick for your number 5.
So, moving on. What you got for number 4?
Number 4. So this match happened in a very dark time in my life. Personal relationship issues, typical 22-year-old shit, right? So honestly, it's two of the best workers ever in the business. It's one of the most diabolical matches ever created. My number 4 pick is the Game Triple H versus the Phenom, The Undertaker, WrestleMania 28, Hell in a Cell.
Dope match.
And again, this is another one of those trilogies that you wouldn't let me put in. But I mean, it kind of cheats even calling it a trilogy because their first match was at 17. They didn't have another match until 10 years later at WrestleMania. And then they had to blow off. But I want you to think up to this point. Up to this point, this is before the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view was a thing. This is like when I think this is the year they started it. There was always 1 or 2 men that were prior to that. It was either The Undertaker working one, or it was Triple H working one. They never met together in Hell in a Cell. And there's always been that question of what if they did meet. Some of the most vile, brutal, disgusting, some would say perverted strikes in the history of WWE happened in that cell on that night. And the story that was told from the time Triple H walked out to when Undertaker walked out and revealed that bald-ass head for the first time in front of millions. You heard that, oh, from the live crowd, and I know I heard it from like the 12 people I was watching WrestleMania with. Like, no, why? But as the match progressed, you're like, dude, I'm gonna shave my fucking head. This looks badass. Newsflash, I did. It looked horrible on me. Side point. But it's one of those things where he went and reinvented himself. Again, he kind of brought back a little bit of that American badass feel. Not as much the look, but the feel of how he performed that night. And then you add in the special guest referee, Shawn Michaels, who, before Triple H at 27 and 28, worked 2 matches straight at 25 and 26. Essentially, there's the word, essentially, retiring Shawn Michaels. I mean, everything just fell in place that night. And then, at the time, I was about, 2-3 years in the business, right? At that time, my entrance music was The Memory Remains by Metallica. And that song was the theme for Hell in a Cell. So this is another little mark out for me. Like, dude, they're using my fucking song on fucking pay-per-view. I should fucking be there. It was just one of those things with like that match. I mean, that whole card was stacked. I mean, that card had CM Punk versus Jericho, Rock Cena won. It had this match and had a couple other good ones. But this match stands out for the brutality Taker and Hunter were able to do. It stands out for the story that was told between all 3 men. Where was Shawn standing? Was he going to be impartial? Was he going to side with Hunter? Then, after the match, after the chair shots and the sledgehammers and the tombstones and the super kicks and the pedigrees, after all of that, all 3 men were able to walk up that stage as brothers in arms. And I got the picture somewhere. I had it signed. I was at a WrestleMania thing. I have it signed by Shawn Michaels somewhere. I think it's in the... But that iconic picture of Taker, Hunter, and Shawn just standing there with that standing ovation was something that will forever be etched in my mind. That is the very definition of what I believe a WrestleMania moment should be. Not winning a championship, not getting yourself over, but that ovation, that you deserve it ovation. That is a WrestleMania moment, and that is why it's my number 4.
Dude, that image of them at the top of the ramp like that's it's one of those images that generations from now will at least see the image. They may not care enough to go look, but that image will still be around in this business.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to go watch this match, you don't need the peacock. Okay? You can go on YouTube. They have the full match on YouTube. Now, granted, it's edited to where a few of those chair shots and sledgehammer shots are toned out because, headshots. But it's still worth a watch. If you got 30 minutes to blow and you want to watch a good wrestling match, go watch Hell in a Cell wrestling against MMA.
Absolutely. All right, number 4 for me, and this is gonna catch you from out of left field. Eddie Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio Jr. Halloween Havoc 1997. Okay, the match that to this day and to the day that Eddie Guerrero passed, both participants still say is the best match they've ever had. It's the match that I don't give a shit what Heyman did in ECW with bringing those guys in. This is the match that made Lucha Libre what it is in this country. This brought it to the masses for the first time. Just the artistry in the match, the things that at the time the masses had never seen before. They were still calling it the Frankensteiner when Rey Mysterio Jr. was doing it. Frankensteiner off the top rope. We had no idea what any of the Mexican names for these moves were, and it was just amazing to watch. And I'm old enough to remember this match. It was absolutely fan-fucking-tastic.
Man, you're right. That did go out of left field. Now, when you said Eddie Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio, I had that. Nope. I had that split. Junior, excuse me. But I had that image of them working at WrestleMania. I had that image of them working all those pay-per-views leading up to Eddie's death before he worked Batista. I remember the night Eddie passed. And it is the first time I ever cried over somebody I didn't know personally dying. Because of the emotional connection he had with everybody. I mean, I'm feeling my chest tighten up right now as I'm talking about it. But, you know me, I wasn't a WCW guy. I didn't see this match until I was actually, the day after he passed, I went to my local video store. Yes, kids, we had stores that let us rent videos out. It's kind of like, but you had to go in there with a little cart. Anyway, another time, went to my local video store, and they had Halloween Havoc 97. So I rented it, and I never returned it. I never did. I just told him I lost it and paid for it because I don't know where I was going to find that video. That match it's like we said on the top 10 when we were talking about Dory and we were talking about Randy. It's poetry in motion. It was seamless. It was art. Dude, you're bringing so many memories back of Eddie and Ray, and god damn, son. And let's look what they became.
Yeah.
November in 2004, a lot of people wouldn't believe this today, but Eddie Guerrero beat Brock Lesnar for the WWE Championship.
Yep, sure did.
And then, what was it, 2 years after, Rey Mysterio main evented WrestleMania in Eddie's name to win the World Heavyweight Championship. Like, their careers are forever going to be entangled.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad you brought that match up, because that if it's not anybody's top 10, it should be.
Yeah, one thing that I hope to accomplish on doing some of these lists is giving younger kids like something to go back and check out. Like if I was, I don't know, 25 right now and into today's wrestling, the fuck is WCW? Like there was no reason I would ever see Eddie Guerrero or Rey Mysterio Jr. Halloween Havoc '97. Unless you hear something like this and you go seek it out and you see how different but how beautiful what they were doing at the time was. How nobody on the WCW commentator desk knew anything that was going on. Right?
No.
They had no fucking clue. Oh, flying head scissors. None of the long-standing names. It was just a complete contrast to the commentators today, and it was just a beautifully done match in front of a crowd who had never seen anything like that before.
Yeah. And let's not forget, for you video game freaks out there that play the 2K game, Rey Mysterio was the cover star for 2K22. One of the highlight matches for his story was Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio at 97. So you got to play through that match. And if you ever have the opportunity to play 2K at all, they do very well with telling stories. They do very well. They look at the very small details, and you can see when they cover Rey Mysterio's career how important this match was to him. I mean, they did a whole sit-down interview with Ray talking about this match, and I saw the uncut version. He was there for over 45 minutes just talking about this one match, just 17 minutes of his life. It's just that match. If we have a physical Hall of Fame, there should be a section in that hall for that match. Good stuff, man. But like that was it's almost feels like a feel good moment right now. I thought I feel right now talking about that.
I tried to go deep on some of these.
All right. I mean, you do, but whenever you bring Eddie up, it just hits a chord.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And for those of you who only knew either Eddie Guerrero at the end of his career or Rey Mysterio over the last few years, you didn't know them before, their bodies have changed so much over time that they were incapable of doing some things towards the end that they were able to do back at this time, because they were both lighter and lightning quick, and neither one of them had found the sauce yet. So it was just beautiful. Anyway,
and one more tidbit. As of this recording, Rey Mysterio is being inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame this year.
Yep.
Well
deserved.
That...
Well deserved.
My heart feels good, man. My heart feels good.
Good.
Good shit.
Good.
Good shit. Oh.
Moving on.
So, before we move on, my dude.
Yes.
Who is today's sponsor of our show?
And here's a word from our sponsor, Castel Vodka.
Vodka evolved. Castel. Indulge in the red revolution.
All right. Thank you, Castel Vodka. What's your number 3, Draven?
Oh. Number 3 is a match just as smooth as Castel. Number 3 happened when I was 14. Number 3 happened...
We're not talking about those kind of matches.
Shut the fuck up.
Oh.
No.
Not that
number
kind of wrestling.
Happened, I don't know. You hear number 3, you're going to be like, damn, I didn't think about that match.
All right.
So, from 2002 to essentially, there's that word again, 2006, Triple H and Shawn Michaels had many historic matches. So it was hard to pin down one, whether it was his comeback match at SummerSlam 2002 or that bloody ass Hell in a Cell in 2004, or even to the point where they reunited in 2006. But the match that stands out to me story-wise and still keeps me engaged to this day because of the flow, because of the story, because of how personal this match was. It's Shawn Michaels and Triple H, Royal Rumble 2004, Last Man Standing.
Ooh, very nice. Very nice.
Now, like I said, I could have put any of their matches, the comeback match, their match with the Elimination Chamber, the 2 out of 3 falls at Armageddon 02, their world title match on the New Year's Raw, Hell in a Cell, the 3-way with Chris Benoit. But this match stands out for the story that was told, because this was after the world title match, after the double count out, after the double pin. The build up to this match, if you can ever find it, please, all these matches, I implore you to watch it on both of our accounts. His top 5 and my top 5. Please watch these matches. But it starts out as a wrestling match. Then it builds to a fight. Then it builds to a bloody brawl. Then it builds to hardcore shit. And the ending of it, which is so beautifully done. Hunter beat him with everything he got. Hit him with a sledgehammer, hit him with a pedigree, hit him with chairs, fucked his back up, did everything. He's still not getting the 10 count. Triple H, face is covered red. You don't see a bit of skin on it. It's nothing but blood on both accounts. Shaking his head at Earl Hebner. This can't be it. Fuck it. Grabs the sledgehammer, goes and charges, runs right into a super kick. Both of them are down. Okay? God, so it's beautiful. And at 5, you start seeing Shawn like just getting it. He's coming to, right? And 6, and he's like getting his arm up, trying to crawl up. 7, he's getting there. You feel it. 8, he's about there. 9, drops dead. 10, double count out. And rules per WWE, it's a double count out. If it's a draw, the championship does not change hands. After the match, Triple H is taken out on a stretcher. He's lost so much blood, that he cannot physically stand and walk up that ramp. As they're putting Shawn on a stretcher as well, he throws the stretcher.
I lost you.
And I'm back. It's just something with my internet. I'm fighting with him right now. Anyway, Shawn is on his hands and his knees after throwing the stretcher. He refuses to admit he was not able to stand up. Even if it's after the match. That motherfucker crawled up that ramp, through the curtain. It's the story that them two have always been able to tell. And this one hit a new level up to Hell in a Cell. But in my opinion, the Hell in a Cell just dragged on a little too much for my face. This was just perfect, time-wise, story-wise, physicality. It goes to basically what we were talking about with Eddie and Ray. The match was art to me. And for that reason, it's my number 3.
Beautiful storytelling. Anybody would be pleased with that match. If you're a fan of technical wrestling, you'll get some of that. If you're a fan of striking, you definitely get some of that. You're a fan of the blood, you definitely got some of that. The hardcore shit, you definitely got some of that. It was perfectly done. And I definitely, even though I didn't even think about that match, definitely one everyone should check out.
Yes. Oh, what's your number 3, my dude?
My number 3, and ironically, it's at number 3, the best triple threat match of all time, Triple H, HBK, Chris Benoit, WrestleMania 20, best triple threat match, hands down. Don't come at me with no Chris Benoit shit. Hate the artist, don't hate the art. That was a goddamn classic. By far the best triple threat match of all time. We spoke a minute ago about how Eddie Guerrero won the world title that night. Chris Benoit won his first title the same night. Best friends, both won their first major world championship at the same show. One winning the world title, one winning the WWE title. This match was amazing. Okay, if you guys haven't gone back and watched any of Chris Benoit's work, he might have been crazy as fuck, but he was the prototype. He was an amazing professional wrestler. He was built from the ground up to be a professional wrestler. These three guys put on a clinic. It was paced beautifully. Nobody missed their spots. It was a classic from start to end. Chris Benoit finally wins his first World Heavyweight title. WrestleMania 20 triple threat match.
You know, Chris is a very complex subject in our business.
Yeah.
And to bring him up, it's always going to have some backlash. You will never get backlash from me. As a worker, 110% every night. He left it all out there. He made it feel real. And, you know, there's always going to be a part of me that wishes, you know, that horrible night in June didn't happen. Because I would like to see how his career ended up. I would love to see, you know, did he keep going for a few years, or, you know, did he take a backstage role, or did he jump ship to another company, or did he go to New Japan? Like, Chris is like you said, the prototype. He is the mold of what a professional wrestler should be. When God made him, that he broke the fucking mold. There's to this day nobody as intense, as believable, and as humbled as Chris was. I've met Chris Benoit. I met him at Extreme Rules 2007 when I was here in Jacksonville, Florida. The man took time out of his schedule to just talk person to person. He didn't have to do that to a 17-year-old kid.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, he gave some pointers, and, you know, he actually prayed and shit. I know that's you know, kind of hypocritical because, you know, he did what he did. But the man was a very religious man. The man had his faith. And I find it almost comforting that he's getting acknowledged on this list. I personally didn't put anything on this for Chris because this list is more or less what, you know, drove me, what helped me. And as good as his stuff was, personally, none of his matches ever really helped me because that's never the style I was ever trying to portray. I can't. I will never be able to do what he did ever. The fact that, like you said, him and Eddie at the end of that show, confiding each other, embracing, holding their championships in the air. No matter what WWE ever tries to do, that match, that moment is immortalized. Can never be taken away. Now, I will argue the fact that the month after at Backlash, it was the same match, same result, almost just as good. I don't know if you remember that match, but that match was just as like this. Of course, it didn't have like the WrestleMania shine on it,
Right.
so obviously WrestleMania 20 is going to have more of a plateau to stand on. But I could argue that their second triple threat match was just as good. It's not better, but it was just as good. because the continued story that was told,
Yeah.
and the fact that they kind of flipped it to where Triple H lost already at WrestleMania, so they made Shawn lose at Backlash.
Mm-hmm.
Just finishes, same result. So yeah, and the fact that you have Triple H and Shawn Michaels at your number 3 when I got him at my number 3, I'm gonna take that as a win.
Yeah, and I am not gonna sit here and defend what happened that night by any means, but people have to understand that there was no concussion protocol for wrestlers back then.
Nope.
You got a concussion tonight, you were in the ring tomorrow, or you didn't get paid and you didn't feed your kid. So these guys would just rack up concussion after concussion after concussion. And as much strides has happened in football gear technology, no strides have been made for wrestlers. Like, we don't have headgear, we don't have stuff like that. The only thing you can do to help concussions for wrestlers is have them not wrestle. And for a lot of guys, that's not an option. Okay, especially when they were coming up, when they didn't make money like they did today. I mean, if you didn't, there was no guaranteed. If you didn't wrestle, you didn't get paid.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean, that kind of goes back to the top 10 from last week, where we were talking about how Hall and Nash influenced guaranteed money.
mm-hmm.
Yes, that happened in '96, and yes, you had a bottom line guarantee. But that bottom line guarantee, say you sign a $500,000 contract, that bottom line guarantee is only for $75,000.
Mm-hmm.
If you already got paid up to $75,000, you're not getting paid anything else on your contract if you're out.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to work. And it's like you said, there were no concussion protocols. I've had 3 in my life. They suck balls. My last concussion came from when I broke my fucking neck in 19. So I from what they've done now from 2007 to now, I applaud them for what they've done. You know, ban the chair shots to the head, ban, you know, alcohol, this, that, and the other. But I feel there's still more as a business that we can do to help, you know, keep each other safe. And, you know, we do. Like, I trust you in my body, you trust me with your body.
Mm-hmm.
Please don't take that like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact of the matter is, you know, when we get in that ring, we are essentially putting our lives in our opponent's hands.
Right.
So, again, I applaud WWE for their concussion protocols. I applaud AEW for their concussion protocols. Every company that does it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's always just that little bit more that can be done.
And unfortunately, they didn't take CTE seriously until much later when a football player passed. I would have loved to have seen them do a CTE autopsy on Chris Benoit's head. There is no way that his brain looked anything like a normal human brain.
Well, if you remember, they did do an autopsy on Chris Benoit's brain. Christopher Nowinski, the Harvard graduate that was in WWE in 2002,
Mm-hmm.
he, for a shoot, is a doctor. He studies brains. And he got an autopsy and did an MRI of it. And he said that Chris's brain was that of a 72-year-old Alzheimer's patient.
Whoa.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't take that into account when he did those awful things. Yes, it is unforgivable what he did to his wife, his son, and himself. But at the same time, you also got to think, you know, was he in the driver's seat when he was doing it? Was it Chris in the driver's seat, or was it the disease, you know, in his brain driving essentially that body that night, that weekend?
Right. Yeah. It's tough, man. It's tough. It's definitely unforgivable, but I think there were some extra factors other than him just being a horrible person, because I don't think anyone who knew him thinks that.
No. Let's be clear on this. Let's be clear on this here at Heel Shit. We can separate Chris Benoit the wrestler from Chris Benoit the person.
Yes.
If we feel he is good enough for a top 10 or a top 5 or a subject, we will talk about him, regardless of anybody's opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you have different in that, please comment it in the fucking thing below. Let us know. Let's have a conversation on that. Let's have a sit down. Let's have a table meeting and get to the bottom of why you feel the way you do about Chris and why we feel the way we do about Chris. Okay? Don't just go and bash us on social media because, oh, they're building Chris Benoit up. Oh, they're talking high of him. It's not the fact that we're talking high of him. It's the fact that as a wrestler, you can't ignore what he's done. You never can. You never will be able to. WWE might be able to, push it to the side on a peacock, but even now they're kind of loosening the reins on it. They've allowed the triple threat matches to come back on. They've allowed that fatal four-way tag team match. I believe it was a TLC where Jericho and Benoit actually tag team together. So, I mean, they're kind of loosening the reins on it a little bit, but they're still not acknowledging him, which is fine. You got to look at it from their standpoint. Under contract, he did these horrible things. We can't really. I get that, but that doesn't mean we can't.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean we can't talk about it. So, like I said, if y'all have a problem, comment it down below. Let us know. Let's have a conversation about it. We can do a whole episode on this. I have no problem having an episode on Chris Benoit if you don't. So if y'all want to get y'all's voices heard, comment below, tweet us, send us emails, hit us on Instagram, let us know, and we'll set this up for a future episode.
Yeah. All right. So enough of that. On to the fun. Number 2, Draven. What you got?
Number 2. It's a very underrated match. From the year's previous event. We just talked about one, the Hell in a Cell. So one of these is Undertaker. The other person in this match wrestled Chris Jericho for the WWE Championship at the prior year's WrestleMania. So both of these guys are coming off something. Undertaker coming off brutal matches. So we're expecting another brutal match, right? Chairs and blood and this and that. Oh my. This match, I put it in my number 2 spot because I feel it doesn't get the recognition that it deserves. Not because of who was in it, but because of the story behind it. My number 2 pick is Undertaker versus CM Punk at WrestleMania 29. Now, some people might be asking, why didn't you just flip Undertaker and Triple H there and have 2 and 46? Because I know the story behind the match. I know the build-up to this match like the back of my hand. If you ask any of my family members or any of my friends that's known me the past 10, 15 years, I have, will, and always will be a CM Punk mark. I am pro CM Punk. And if you go back and you watch, which is on Peacock, CM Punk's biography that WWE did, he went out and had that match with the biggest chip on his shoulder. He had that match pissed off because he felt he was not being treated fairly. He was not getting paid the same as every other main event match. And even Taker said, this is a main event match. You're wrestling me at WrestleMania. It's like, can you sit there and you tell me that I'm getting paid the same as Brock, Triple H, Dwayne, Cena, you? And Taker couldn't do that. So, not only that, but the build up to this match, kayfabe, where unfortunately we did lose Paul Bearer before this show. And Paul Bearer's kids gave the blessing to use Paul Bearer for storyline leading up to this. And Punk, yeah, you remember these. Remember Paul Heyman and CM Punk throwing the urn around. No respect, right? You remember him constantly attacking him from behind. No respect. There's that one episode where CM Punk bathed in the ashes of the urn. But did that turn this into a no disqualification match? Did that turn into this to a cage match, a casket match, buried alive? No, it was still just a one-on-one match. And in my opinion, WrestleMania 29, that was match of the night. And you got to think, you had Triple H and Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. You had Cena and The Rock, Part 2 at WrestleMania. And this match, in my opinion, still outdid all of them. It outworked everybody. It outtold the story to everybody. And that was hard to do with The Rock and Cena having a 2-year build-up to that match. And let's not forget, CM Punk lost the title to The Rock to cause that main event match to happen. So, yet again, another chip on his shoulder. And in my opinion, that's what made the match better, is the fact he went out there with the biggest chip in the world on his shoulder and outworked everyone. And not to mention, great study footage. Great footage. If you're an Undertaker fan or a CM Punk fan, that's great footage. The facials, the story, the body language, all of it is there. So for that reason, that is my number 2 pick.
It's a very, very interesting pick. I don't have anything negative to say about it. I remember watching that build up, and I still can't believe that they allowed them to do those things in the era that they did those things. Like,
yeah,
they
PG era.
Yeah,
it wasn't like
the PG era, and their pantomime dumping the Undertaker's father figure's ashes on himself and playing in them, and like that was some disrespectful next level heel shit. Right? Yeah. That is next level heel shit. And
I also remember those entrances for WrestleMania 29 when Taker was coming out of that stage with all the zombie hands and they were just reaching for him, and he looked like God just like coming out of hell. That was beautifully done. And then seeing Nick Color attempt to play Cult of Personality like they used to, that was actually quite sad, but still a good thing to watch. God almighty. I'm gonna go back and watch that tonight. Actually, that's gonna be the match I watch.
That's good shit.
What's your number 2?
My number 2. It's not the first match that put him on the map. Sting versus Ric Flair, Great American Bash 1990. This was the year after their 45-minute draw at the Clash of the Champions that made Sting a star. To go back and tell a little bit of the story, Sting had just been brought in to be a 4 horseman. They just brought Sting in. Sting then wins a tournament to become the number 1 contender for Ric Flair's World Heavyweight Championship. And then after many demands, Sting refuses to just give up the title shot because he's a horseman. So before the match, they jump him and they beat his ass, completely turned against him. Get to the match, Sting wins his first World Heavyweight Championship on this night, catapulting a Hall of Fame career. Yes, I think that the prior match at the Clash of the Champions might have been more important to Sting's career, but this made him the legitimate main event star that became the icon.
Okay.
Great American Bash 1990, Sting versus Flair, Sting's first championship win.
So let me ask you this about that. Out of the 2 matches, which one would you say influenced you more? I know it's a tough one.
It's tough because the first match was very limited in what Flair wanted to do. Like, if you go back and you listen to the stories, and if you go back and watch it, you'll be like, wow, there is a whole lot of Irish whips, military press slams. There's a whole lot of Ric Flair getting on the top rope and getting thrown off.
Yep.
And that was how Flair wanted that match to go, because Sting always got a pop on it. And he was like, we're just going to run this shit because you always get a huge pop from it. The crowd loves it. And apparently it didn't matter. They just continued to do it over and over and over again.
Right.
So at the time, I noticed it a little bit at the time, but as I got older and I finally heard that story, I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because Sting was much more versatile, even at the time.
Yep.
When we get to this match in 1990 for the title, there was a lot more offense. There was more Sting doing drop kicks. There was more athleticism shown than just an Irish whip military press slam.
Yep.
And I get it. He looked like a fucking superhero. He looked like, we talked about a couple shows ago about Bruno Sammartino being the archetype of what the baby face is. And
Yep.
at that time, if you put that vision with a blonde mohawk, it's Sting. He is, at the time, the perfect baby face for the era. And it's so funny. Sting told this story on Dynamite a couple of years ago, and he was like, when he first, because after Sting broke up with the Blade Runners, Sting went to Crockett and went up through that, and they're all NWA guys. So Dusty Rhodes was instrumental the whole time, and when they were the Blade Runners, they just did like some black paint and black trunks and all this stuff, and Dusty Rhodes was like, baby, what we gonna do is we gonna put some color on your face, we gonna put some color on your trunks, and they're gonna love you, baby. And he did. His face paint was all neon, his long trunks all neon, and he looked like a superhero. So I can understand him, holding another grown man up and slamming them down looks impressive. So I'm not angry at it, but it was certainly limited in the offensive, even though it went 45 minutes, which is much longer than the title win. The offensive buffet was a lot more limited.
Right. So, are you going to answer my question? You went on this whole tangent. You never answered my question.
The second one, the title one.
Which title one influenced you more? Okay. Man, anytime you bring Sting up, like you just bring yourself up to a whole nother level, and like you just let yourself out a little bit more. We might just have to do a whole Sting episode just to watch you just smile for 45 minutes to an hour.
Dude, let me tell you this: when I was getting my postgraduate degree, don't want to divulge too much shoot shit, but this was sometime between 04 and 07, so somewhere in there. I went on eBay and I found something that purported to be a Sting highlight reel. So I'm like, all right, this is gonna be badass. I didn't even know they made this. So I ordered this shit. WCW's been closed for years. Sting hasn't gotten back to TNA yet. Like, this was still, during that.
04, early 05.
Yeah. So I get this, and it was like 7 VHSs. Dude just recorded matches on his home VCR. It was like all the tracking lines were still going on. It was fucking hilarious. But there is some good old shit on there. No, it was Sting. It was all Sting, but it wasn't like a curated best of. It was just, but it covered from like early '90s to the couple promotions that when WCW went under that he wrestled on.
Now, you don't have to divulge the price, but was it worth the price?
Yeah.
Plus shipping to get that.
Yeah, it was only like $20.
Oh, well.
I mean, and
$20.
it was some hours worth. Like it was a lot of matches.
I mean, typical VHSs ran like 3 hours a piece that you could record on. By the way, yes, we're that old. I still have VHSs of recorded Monday Night Raws and pay-per-view. Don't hate us. I just don't have a VCR anymore.
Right. I don't have a VCR.
Send me an email. I will definitely give you my address, and you can send me a fucking VCR so I can just capture some of my childhood glory. And if need be, I'll send it to him because we only live about 45 minutes away from each other, and we'll just pass the VHS back and forth like a dirty whore.
That's right. Got split custody for that little fucker. All right. And let's do some honorable mentions real quick. What's in your honorable mentions?
Again, mine are more modern than I'm sure yours will be. I'm not going to go into great detail. I'll give a couple opinions on mine, but I'm not going to go into great detail because I feel my number one pick is going to have enough detail for 3 episodes.
Yeah, just blows through these. You don't have to.
Okay. Well, my first one is what was right there at number 5, number 6 between the Big and FTR. It's Cena and Punk at Money in the Bank 2011. It's the build up to it, the pipe bomb, the contract negotiations, and everything that happened afterwards. It is almost like brought me back to when Scott Hall showed up on WCW. It blurred the lines to the point I couldn't tell if it was real or fake. So Cena versus Punk. By the way, I believe that's the first 5-star match Uncle Dave gave WWE in a long time, and it is worth a watch. Yeah. I do believe it's still on YouTube if you don't have the block.
For all the shit that the constituency that hates John Cena, as much as they talk about how he can't wrestle, CM Punk has said how pleasurable it was to wrestle with John, that he was a great in-ring wrestler. So I don't want to get too much into that, but the reason all of their matches were so good was because they were both top-tier performers. It's not like Cena or Punk lucked into having a bunch of great matches together. Like they did it for a reason, and they had a great Monday Night Raw match during that stage.
How about that match with the pile driver?
Pile driver, yep.
Oh my god, dude! I watched that live and I stood up like, oh my god, they're going to get fired. Like they're going to get fired. I just saw pile driver on WWE.
Yeah.
Like they just got like a slap on the wrist from it because of who they are. But they have so many great matches. They have this match. They have the rematch at SummerSlam the same year. They have Vengeance Night of Champions 2012 after CM Punk turned heel. And there's a few more, including the Monday Night Raw match. Like they had, every match was great in their own right. Every one told a different story, but it all made sense. And it's because of people like Cena, people like Punk, who can always, I say always, set aside personal issues and do business. It's kind of like the current stuff with CM Punk at AEW, which we'll probably cover in the next few weeks, just to do a CM Punk AEW thing. But CM Punk hasn't gone on record, but he's told close personal friends who have gone on record in saying he's ready to come back, he's ready to set aside personal differences, and he's ready to do business Will the Young Bucks or Kenny Omega, also have the same mindset? I don't know. I hope so, because CM Punk is good for AEW.
Mm-hmm.
Punk is good for WWE. CM Punk is good for professional wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
A moneymaker. He's a money drawer. He will bring people into a building. They sold out Chicago on a rumor. It wasn't even confirmed. On a fucking rumor, CM Punk was going to AEW.
Mm-hmm.
Show me someone else that sold out a building off a fucking rumor that was never confirmed.
Mm-hmm.
And this ain't me being Punk mark. This is me just stating facts. I mean, I can go on a CM Punk tangent if you would like. We don't have enough time today. But for my next match, this one goes back about actually almost 20 years at this point. Holy shit. TNA Unbreakable 2005. Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels, and the phenomenal AJ Styles for the X Division Championship.
Good match.
Yep. In a time where the X Division wasn't getting that much attention, two of the four pillars of TNA and Samoa Joe, who at the time had an undefeated streak, was a monster. Put on one of the most insane. By the way, I was there live for this match. I was by the heel tunnel, row 10 or 11. Anyway, I watched this match live, and they had everybody right here, palm of their hand, the entire thing from start to finish. And it's not because it was a car crash or it was a high spot match. It was because they were able to tell a story.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, definitely Unbreakable 2005. If you ever had the pleasure of watching that match, please do. Yes, it's kind of a high spot thing. Yes, it's nonstop. But you see an early AJ Styles still growing into what he would become. You see Samoa Joe, in my opinion, in his prime, just slaughtering fucking them too. And then you see Christopher Daniels, who at that time was the ring veteran of the three, being able to direct whenever they were getting lost.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really hard to see them when they do get lost, and it's even harder to see Christopher Daniels direct. That just shows why he called the ring.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why he was my number 10 pick. Now I had three more. I'm only going to call out one more. Because of what I feel is where Japanese superstars got mainstream attention, where people outside of WWE were taken more seriously. It's Sami Zayn versus Shinsuke Nakamura at TakeOver Dallas 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Shinsuke to the NXT crowd at that time. You got to think, NXT crowds in 2016 were like hardcore wrestling fans. They weren't like modern wrestling. You didn't watch NXT on cable TV. You either had to watch it through the network or you had to watch it through Hulu. Either way, you had to pay for it. It kind of felt like early TNA-ish with the $9.99 pay-per-view, right? So you had to devote time and money to keep following the NXT brand. And at this time, Sami Zayn was on his way out the door of NXT. He was about to get called up, so he needed one last good match because he was shown as the heart and soul of NXT at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff with Adrian Neville, Pac, to Kevin Owens, to excuse me, to Finn Balor. They had a couple of good matches in NXT when he first showed up. But when Sami and Shinsuke showed up at TakeOver Dallas, they've both gone on record. They have never touched before that match. They never discussed anything before that match. They didn't even talk to each other the day of the show about that match. That's the first time they touched. And to be able to have that much talent, to be able to go in there and put on match of the night. I'm not sure if you watched this match. I've watched this match religiously. It's very physical. It's strong style to hell and back. It kind of put Sammy out of his comfort zone. But it made Sammy evolve even further, not only as a wrestler, but as a character and as a person. To the point that you kind of see little tidbits of it to this day with his bloodline babyface on. So for that, those are my 3 honorable mentions for this list.
All right. So hit us with the big one. Drum roll, please.
No. You're going to get your honorable mentions out before we hit number 1. Nice try, dude. Nice try.
All right. Okay. I might just name one of these because...
Well, how many do you have?
I only wrote down 2.
Okay. Is there something wrong with the second one?
No, it's just... All right. So, my first honorable mention, War Games 1992.
Nice.
Now listen to these teams. Sting, Barry Windham, Dusty Rhodes,
Yeah, baby.
Ricky Steamboat,
Ooh, Dragon.
and Nikita Koloff
Ooh.
versus
Okay.
Rick Rude,
Mm-hmm.
Arn Anderson,
Uh-huh.
Larry Zbyszko,
Mm.
Bobby Eaton,
Ooh.
and stunning Steve Austin as the Dangerous Alliance under Paul E. Dangerously. For those of you who don't know, Paul E. Dangerously is Paul Heyman. And his faction back in the early 90s was known as the Dangerous Alliance.
That's a good thing. I'm honestly surprised that didn't show up on your top 5.
It was on there for a lot, and then I thought another match was more important than it. But Larry Zbyszko costs the Dangerous Alliance the match. Sting Squadron wins, and that directly led to the Dangerous Alliance as a faction going bye-bye. So not only was it a star-studded match, Jesus Christ. I mean, these are just everyone's Hall of Fame list. All these guys should be in the Hall of Fame.
Agreed.
And then my second one was the Steiner Brothers versus Lex Luger and Sting. The first time Lex Luger and Sting got a shot at the tag titles, at the time, by far, the 4 biggest baby faces in WCW.
Yeah, I remember that match.
The hottest tag team, the biggest baby faces, and the two biggest individual stars. Now, what was fun about this match is it was a heartbreaker because it was a beautifully done match between 2 babyface teams, back and forth, all good. Very end, at the same time, Sting was getting into a feud with Nikita Koloff.
Yeah,
and he feuded with Sting and then Lex Luger. It was like their obvious, communist Russian character at the time.
USA versus Russia, basically. Yes.
Yeah.
The USA versus Russia thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and at this match, Sting was about to win it. Koloff comes out of nowhere, runs down, hits him with the sickle. The Steiners see it happen, but they have to win the match. So begrudgingly, they pin Sting for the win. Heartbreaking on both sides. No winners, but really no losers. Shaky finish, but just the heartbreak of none of the good guys wanting to win like that. Right. You didn't see that a lot at the time. It was very babyface, heel, black and white. You didn't see finishes like this at the time. So those are my honorable mentions. Uh,
Good choices.
Homer picks, but I think they qualify.
No, that's great. Like I said, I had like 2 or 3 more right here to do honorable mentions, but I figured we'd cut them down.
Yeah.
So for number one, I have a question.
Mm.
Is your number one pick a part of a trilogy?
Maybe, but it's not relevant to why it's a number one pick.
Okay. Is your number one pick at a WrestleMania?
Yes, it is.
Is your number one pick involving the 2 biggest icons in WWE from 98 to 2003?
It is not Rock Austin.
Okay, that's where I was going. So mine is Rock Austin, but you know me pretty well. Do you think it's 15, 17, or 19 that I'm going to talk about?
I think it's 19.
Damn, you're good. It is Stone Cold Steve Austin versus The Rock, WrestleMania 19, Seattle, Washington. Now, obviously not their best match, but this match holds a special place in my heart. Like I told you a couple weeks ago on the show, I got back into wrestling around the Royal Rumble 2003 era. That's when I started following it again. WrestleMania 19 was the first pay-per-view I ever watched live. So from top to bottom, I know that card by heart. I know every spot. I know every move. I know every story. A fan couldn't fart in that arena without me knowing about it at this point in time. Like, I have a recorded VHS, official VHS, DVD, special edition DVD. You name it, I got it for WrestleMania 19. I actually got a piece of the ring apron put up somewhere. Like,
Sweet.
it holds a very dear place in my heart. The reason though this match, it's because it's when The Rock finally got his comeback. It's when The Rock was able to finally be able to beat Stone Cold, and I don't think that match could have ended any other way.
Mm.
Yes, Austin could have went 3-0 against him, but when it was decided that The Rock was going to win, that was the day of the show when Austin just got out of the hospital, and he made that very, very tough decision that we all have to make in life of hanging up the boots. So he wanted to go out the way you're supposed to go out. You go out on your back. You go out doing what's best for business. And what was best for business that night was for The Rock to go over and allow The Rock to continue his career. Now, we didn't know how much longer The Rock was going to be around. Obviously, we had the Goldberg feud afterwards at Backlash, and he kind of disappeared afterwards. But originally, like I said before this health scare and stuff, Austin was supposed to work Goldberg. He was supposed to work the Elimination Chamber match, so on and so forth. Which we can do a what if thing on that later on, but it's the emotion before the match, during the match, after the match, knowing what I know now, then going back and watching it. It holds a very special place in my heart because this match, Rock versus Austin, was the match. And every worker has that one match that went, I want to be a professional wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
This is that match. It wasn't an Undertaker match. It wasn't a Raven match. It was Austin Rock, because they were able to tell such a beautiful story. And I didn't understand it. I was only a 13-year-old kid watching this. But I knew, watching these two men give everything they had, knowing it was essentially his last match, knowing there is no tomorrow for Stone Cold Steve Austin, the wrestler. The character, yes, there can always be a Stone Cold Steve Austin character. But at the time, Stone Cold Steve Austin, the wrestler, he's done after this match. And the fact that, you know, a lot of guys trained today won't do what he did. There's a lot of guys that will be petty and want themselves to look good one last time and do the right thing. April 8th, we're going to see something. We're all going to see something April 8th, and we'll cover that on that particular show with me. But we're going to see something similar April 8th that we saw at WrestleMania 19. How a chapter ends, how the story ends, how the outlaw rides off into the sunset that one last time. I'm getting emotional. But I mean, I can keep going on about this match, like spot for spot, great match. Never missed their spots. The way The Rock got cheap heat, and then it didn't feel like cheap heat, just beautifully done. The fact that even though Austin lost that match, it still took 3 fucking rock bottoms back to back to finally put him down. Just yeah. But that's my number 1 pick, my dude. Before I start tearing up, what's your number 1, my dude?
My number 1 involves one of the same combatants as yours, but it's a few years earlier. WrestleMania 13, Stone Cold Bret Hart.
The double turn.
The double turn. Okay, this is for all you kids. You see the vision of Stone Cold bleeding in the sharpshooter. That's this match, okay? He passed out to the sharpshooter. That is when the heel Stone Cold flipped to then become the biggest baby face in wrestling history. That is the match. That is the match that created what Stone Cold would become, and it was beautifully done. Huge baby face, huge heel, double turn, done masterfully, launched what would be the most profitable superstar in wrestling history. And because of that, not only was it a great match, but the importance of how they did it and what they created from it makes that my number 1 pick.
Very, very well done. And to do a little deep dive on that, the plan was for Austin to pass out to the sharpshooter. The plan was not for a double turn. The plan was to show, even though he's a fucking heel, he's not going to tap out and make him a badass heel. But the crowd got behind Austin. As that match progressed, you saw at the beginning where it was anti-Austin, pro-Bret. And like it was almost like a morphosis. If like as the match goes, it flips naturally. When that last sharpshooter gets put in, Bret's heel. Bret's lost because he doesn't know what to do, because he doesn't work heel. Austin is basically just doing what he was told to do. And the fact that, you know, they could have just covered that up and kept Bret as a babyface, kept him as a heel, and ignored that turn with the fans. But the fact that they ran with it, and it created, like you said, the biggest draw in professional wrestling, the biggest merch seller in professional wrestling on Austin's term. And then on Bret's term, it gave him so many new feuds to work with. now he's able to work with Taker. Now he's able to work with Shawn. Now he's able to work with all these baby faces that he couldn't work with before because of the time. He's just baby face, and baby faces don't work baby faces normally. If it does, it always falls flat, which is why you never see a baby face and a baby face fight each other. You'll see a heel kill each other just to see who's hated more. But you'll never see two baby faces fight and get over. That is a very good choice. And I remember this match, obviously, and I remember Survivor Series when they fought. What was the third match? Because I asked you if this was a part of a trilogy, and you said it was.
I only said that because I assumed they've had 3 matches in their career, but I didn't have a trilogy in mind.
I'm sure they've had one on like Raw or Superstars or some shit like that early on. But I just want to make sure that, you know, if it was another big pay-per-view match that I didn't know about, you let me know so I can look it up.
I just didn't want to be like, no, and then you'd be like, oh, but this one obscure match that you didn't think of.
Yeah, guilty. I do that from time to time. But, you know, I'd rather you know about it. That way you can go and watch it. That way you have that knowledge, rather than you find out like 2 weeks later, like, you knew about this match and didn't tell me why. Well, because you're the one really trying to do it, so fuck you. But, yeah.
There wasn't a whole lot of heel shit on this episode. Like, we liked all the picks.
No, yeah. Well, that's the thing between us. We have very similar tastes.
Yeah.
But there's some things that we just won't agree with, like how you idolize Brian Cage and, you know, have just shrine to him in your closet. We all know you do.
Fuck Brian Cage. With the hashtag, fuck Brian Cage, fuck Logan Paul, fuck spiders.
Fuck Australia. No, don't fuck Australia. We love our fans in Australia.
Absolutely. We just are scared to go there.
We will never set foot on your continent as long as you have mutated spiders.
Spiders the size of my dog.
On that prison continent ever. I don't care how good the shrimp is on the Barbie. I don't care how good the burgers are. I don't care how fine the women are. I will never step foot. I will never get on a boat that says we're going to Australia. No, thank you. Drop me off in Hawaii or Japan.
No,
fuck
because if there's a dock, that means something can crawl on the boat. Hell no.
Well, I mean, think about it. You got these mutated spiders at this point. They probably know how to swim and or fly.
Yeah.
And if that's the case,
and if not, they've tamed a dingo to let them crawl on their back and swim to the damn boat. All right, some crazy shit happened in Australia.
Dude, those spiders are faster than the Flash. I mean, Flash on some of these videos I've seen on YouTube and Daily Motion. Y'all are brave motherfuckers that live in Australia.
Yeah.
I commend you. But we're never coming there. If you want to see us live, come to the United States. We'll be more than happy to meet you there. We're not coming to your country.
Yes.
As great as this country is to you, as long as you have mutated spiders that remind me of Alien, never, ever.
And
love you guys, but never will I ever set foot on Australia soil.
No, because I think every single thing in Australia is trying to kill you. I'm completely programmed to that theory.
Well, I mean, after what we've seen, yes, I agree with that. Hell, we can have a whole other episode on just Australia and why we will not go there.
No, I'd rather not rub it in. I think they get the point.
I think that'd be a live podcast. Like, be like 1,004 reasons why, like Jericho, just like throw out paper. Rule number 1!
Big ass spiders. Big ass spiders.
Now for your sponsor. Come back from the sponsor. 319!
Mutated spiders.
Really, we love you guys, no matter the continent you're on, no matter where you live. We love you guys. We appreciate y'all always listening to us, dealing with our bullshit. And like we said earlier, comment, let us know your opinions. Whether you're pro Australia, whether you're anti Australia, that's cool. We'll have to debate on that. If you're pro Brian Cage, you're wrong. But please comment. We'll have a discussion on that. If you're pro Logan Paul, I don't know what you're doing on this show. Please comment. Let us know. We will have a discussion on it. And please let us know your top fives. If you don't agree with our top fives, please let us know your top fives. So on a future episode, we can revisit this, and you might just be lucky enough to get read off. We've already had a few of our Reddit listeners do that. And
you might give us a gem that we weren't familiar with. I doubt it, but maybe. You gave us a gem we were not familiar with, and we go check it out. And we say, hey, YouTuber, thanks for the recommendation, bro. Appreciate that.
Thanks, Tweeter. We appreciate you. Thank you, you Instagram beauty. We love you.
So if you will do us a huge favor, like, subscribe, follow, comment, heelshitpodcast.com, heelshitshop.com, heelshitpodcast on all social media. We make it real fucking easy. Heel Shit Podcast. We'll see you next time. Peace.
See you Wednesday, guys. Peace.